Hello viewers, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. Thank you so much for your time. The H. Labdie Stout Community College is pleased to announce the sponsors of the 2022 BVI Literary Arts Festival from the 3rd to the 6th of November as part of the Department of Culture's Culture and Tourism Month. This year's festival will showcase and feature literature, film, music, and spoken word under the theme Unspoken, Unwritten, Unknown. The very diverse program features writers and speakers from the Caribbean and its diaspora through a series of panels, readings, films, workshop, lectures, and a local book fair. Today, I'm honored to be joined by another featured author of the series who's going to be participating in the BVI Lit Fest 2022, Miss Sharma Taylor out of Jamaica. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Introducing a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons. I'm taking you outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's the best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Virgin Gorda to Joss Van Dyke, not forgetting Anigada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing. We are the movers and shakers of this generation. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Season 4 by yours truly, Ron Grant. Raising a generation of greatness. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on 284 Media.
Viewers, welcome back and thank you so much for your time. As promised, I am joined by another featured presenter at the BVI Lit Fest 2022, Miss Sharma Taylor, who is an author. Miss Taylor, thank you so much for your time and welcome to 284 Media.
Thank you so much, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to talk with you. Forgive me for any background noise. I'm actually out and about, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to speak with you and your audience.
You're most welcome and we're happy to have you as well. As I mentioned, the 2022 BVI Lit Festival will feature readings, films, workshop, lectures, of course, a local book fair, and you happen to be one of our leading Caribbean authors. I want to get into a little bit about your work. Tell us, for persons who may not be familiar with the name Sharma Taylor, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a proud Caribbean person. You know, I'm Jamaican, as you can tell by the accent, but I've lived in Barbados. I've traveled to all over the Caribbean, but I've never been to BVI. So I'm really excited about the Lit Fest. I'm an attorney at law by profession, but by passion, I'm a writer. And my debut novel, What a Mother's Love Don't Teach You, just was published in July by Virago Press in the UK. And so I'm very excited to be able to come and talk books and to, you know, share about writing, which is really what I'm most passionate about. So this is an opportunity also to talk a bit about my novel and to encourage people to buy and encourage people to write, because we do need more Caribbean writers.
I could not agree with you more. We're going to get into your novel, but I have to ask you, tell us about the mirroring of being an attorney and an author as well. How do you balance and incorporate these two professions?
Mm-hmm. That's a brilliant question, Ron. And you find that a lot of Caribbean writers straddle the two. So Cherie Jones out of Barbados is an attorney who wrote How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House. Celeste Mohammed out of Trinidad, who wrote Pleasant View, is also an attorney. I think for those of us who have to make our living by writing in terms of being an attorney and doing opinions and submissions, for us, the creative part, at least for me, is what makes me excited. So after a whole day of researching and writing opinions and memos and submissions, I get home in the evening and I just allow my imagination to run wild and creativity to run wild, because obviously in the type of writing I do in my day job is very structured, more rigid, more, you know, more dry. But this is my outlet, you know. So creative writing, I find a lot of us, if you ask a lot of lawyers, they really wanted to be writers, but they thought about the fact that they need to pay the bills. So that's it.
All right. And speaking of following passion, tell us about your novel.
So the novel, What a Mother's Love Don't Teach You, is set in Jamaica in the mid-1980s, which is a very politically turbulent time. You know, during the time of the Cold War and the whole split between communism and democracy. And it surrounds Dinah, who is a Jamaican maid, And 18 years before the novel starts, she had given up her baby boy in an informal adoption to a wealthy expat couple who she was working for in Jamaica at the time. And so she never heard from them again. She didn't know what happened to the baby. They took him out of the island. 18 years later, she's working for a different family who brings home, they're hosting friends from America who bring their son, Apollo. And Dinah is convinced that Apollo is her long lost baby boy who she named in the hospital Son. And so the novel explores what happens after that connection, after they meet, and as they try to work through what family means, and what it means to be a man, what it means to be a mother, and how Dinah's community, which is run by an area Don called British, also is affected by this quote unquote reunion.
Amazing. What made you, Sharma, want to really chronicle this particular time in history and put it into a novel? Because as you mentioned, it was quite an important piece of history. What made you want to chronicle this and incorporate it into your novel?
Well, Ron, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 80s. So, that slice of life I wanted to capture on the page. And I think, not enough is spoken about during that period. In a way, Jamaica mirrors that boy Apollo, who is sort of caught in the middle and tugged at by one Jamaican mother trying to claim him, and then his American mother claiming him, because the island at the time, we bore the fallout of that conflict between USSR and America, and in terms of Manly's closeness to Castro in Cuba at the time, and America's fear that they didn't want another communist country in their backyard.
Yes.
They did things like sanctions, cut off certain benefits, and even now we're still reaping the economic ramifications of those decisions. Even though of course we went the way of democracy, but so I want to explore that, because I don't think, there's a lot of nonfiction on it, but in terms of fiction writing and putting it in the context of real world and, characters and what happened with them, I found that, I don't find a lot of fiction on it. And I felt, hey, it'd be a good parallel to what happens with these two women fighting over this child, this young man rather.
I completely understand. Well, thank you. And first of all, congratulations on the novel. We look forward to being able to have signed copies, which I believe and I hope that you will be bringing to the BVI Lit Fest. Am I correct? Will the book be available at the fair?
I am going to do my best, because we're having supply chain shortages. So I'll see what I can do. Yeah.
And for persons who may not be at the Lit Fest, how can they get the book if they're interested? Is it available online at any sources?
Yes, Amazon UK. So it has to be the UK site of Amazon and not the US. So they can go to Amazon UK and order it.
Thank you so much. Now, as I mentioned, the Lit Fest will be featuring a number of readings, film, workshop, lectures for which you will be a part. I want to talk, Sharma, about emerging Caribbean authors. There are a lot of stories that take place across the region, similar to the one that you have depicted in your novel, but for some reason, Caribbean authors are not necessarily always inclined to tell these stories. I think culturally, we have a lot in common. What do you say to young, emerging Caribbean authors who have stories to tell in all different facets, but might be a bit apprehensive about wanting to put those stories on paper?
I think that's a very important question, Ron, because people may sometimes feel they don't want to paint their island or their country in a certain negative light, or they feel, hey, if I'm too real in this depiction, will it turn people off? Or, what my family or friends think, or people at work. I think my advice to those people is just write the story. Let the story dictate what goes on the page. Let the characters determine what happens. It's not your job you don't work for the Ministry of Tourism. It's not your job to paint everything rosy. I mean, in this novel, there's a lot of ugliness as well, but there's also beauty, and that reflects the reality of Caribbean life. There's a lot of beautiful things in our society, in our culture, but there's a lot of ugliness too. And I think we need to be true. The main thing a writer is the obligation that you have is to be true. So the primary litmus test is it true to the character, true to the story I'm trying to tell? And once the answer is yes, your duty is to put it on the page fearlessly and courageously, because you have to think about 100 years from now, 200 years from now, when our societies have drastically changed and there's new generations. you want to put something on the page that people can look back and say, oh, this is what society was, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Amazing. In speaking of putting stories onto the page, as not only a author but an attorney and a leading Caribbean woman, what are you most proud of, Sharma, when you look back at your time in service to the people?
Wow, Ron, you make me sound very important. My time in service to the people. I never looked at it that way before, to be honest. How I look at it is, we need more people like you, like me. We need more our voices to be heard. Other societies, they're unafraid, unashamed to write, to put their stories out there. But somehow, Caribbean people, maybe we feel we need some kind of external validation. Maybe we feel, we may not have all the resources. But whatever the obstacle is, whatever that thing in your head, and I'm speaking to writers now, that is stopping you or making you hesitant, my story is an example to say it is possible. It is possible to get your book out there. It is possible to write something that people will want to read. And, again, you owe it, I think, to future generations and your country to ensure that, if you have this passion and this desire and it's a fire in you, that you really put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and get the stories out. Our stories are important, they're valuable, and they need to be told to the world.
You could not have said it best, Sharma. Of course, viewers, as mentioned, the 2022 BVI Lit Fest will take place at the H. Lively Stout Community College here in the Virgin Islands from November 3rd to the 6th. Ms. Sharma Taylor, an author and attorney out of Jamaica, and just a down-to-earth and strong Caribbean woman, will be one of the featured presenters. Sharma, we are looking forward to receiving you here in the British Virgin Islands, and we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ron, and I'm looking forward to meeting all the people watching at the festival. It promises to be excellent. The workshops are going to be phenomenal. I plan to attend all of them. The sessions will be great. So make sure that between November 3rd and 6th, and 3rd is my birthday, by the way. So come and
Wonderful.
Tell me happy birthday on the 3rd. But make sure that you find yourself at all the events. You won't regret it.
Viewers, that is all the time we have. Reporting for 284 Media out of Tortola in the Virgin Islands, I'm Ron Grant. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye-bye.